Good day everyone. Today our group members, which consists of Ashton, Amy, Chen and me, that gonna provide some analysis for Australian firms to establish a presence in China. And since China opened up the economy to foreigners and joined the WTO in 2001, China's import and export has grown rapidly. And at the moment, China has become the world's largest exporter and the second largest importer, and they become a important force for the steady development of the world economy. And this article is going to be divided into four parts. The first part, we're going to consider assessing the degree of success of China in globalization. The second part is an analysis of the level of both economic development and human development in China. And after that, we compare both of them together to give a decision which one is more significant. And in the third part, we assess the evaluation of the cultural distance between China and Australia. And lastly, we analyze and demonstrate which industry should China and Australia focus on when conducting international trade.
Hi everyone, today I'm Dad. We're going to discuss about some effect of globalization in China. Globalization refers to a shift toward a more integrated and interdependent world economy. And there are two main components from economic perspective, which are globalization of market and production. And they are drivers of globalization. They consider that tools to connect the world together. And globalization play a crucial role in shaping and developing international business, especially in China. Today we're going to discuss both negative effect and positive effect of globalization in China. The first benefit is increase in FDI. And there's a continuous increase in FDIs since China opened up the economy to foreigners, and investment in China by overseas investors rose to $7.4 billion in first half of 2019, which is 3.5% higher than a year earlier. And they are the world's second largest FDI recipient, only behind the US. And globalization has a significant contribution to a rapid economic boost in China because many MNCs are attracted and operate factories in China due to low manufacturing and labor costs. For example, Apple has created 350,000 jobs in just a small city, which lead to a dramatic increase in demand for employment, and from there, they can improve China's living standard and reduce poverty. The next benefit is international trade. International trade helps China to easily purchase resources, technology from overseas to build infrastructure for the development of its economy. And globalization and Chinese phenomenon economic growth has spread their products around the world, make them rank one in manufacturing industry. And the last benefit is coastal industries, which refers to the special economic zones, coastal cities and free trade areas, which are given special economic policies and flexible governmental measures compared to the more planned economy of most of China. They contribute to 22% of China's GDP, 45% of total national foreign investment, 60% of export, and created over 30 million jobs and increased 30% in income with advanced technology. Now we're gonna discuss about some drawbacks. The first one is social instability. The China's Household Income Project survey in 2002 has shown that 21% of correspondents think that corruption is the most serious problem which causes social inequality, and citizens lack of effective political and legal institutions that can protect their rights. As a result, there are mass protests and petitions and citizen dissatisfaction with government actions. And the huge income gap in China, and according to White survey in 2004, half of Chinese respondents strongly agree that income gap is threatening the social stability. And despite the growth of China's economy in the last decade, more than 482 million people, which is 36% of population, live on less than $2 a day. And in 2008, the top wealthiest 100% in China have accumulated the same amount of wealth as 40% of Chinese households. And in the top 1% of Chinese owns a third of country wealth. Next, we're going to talk about some human rights. And China has a freedom index rating of just 11 out of 100. And in China, trade unions are illegal. As a result, Chinese workers are not allowed to protest about worker wage, poor working conditions, mass layoffs, and corrupt management, which can attract foreign firms with these easy and relaxed law. For example, Foxconn working conditions and abusing labor. They have full control over people's working schedule and free time. Workers are prohibited from using certain devices, and if they broke any rules, they will have to confess their guilt publicly. And they have long shifts, and they only have some days off once a year to visit their family, and there will be cancel their lunch break if target is not reached. As a result, these are against human rights. And the last drawback is environment. Government lack of policy to protect environment. Due to the rapid growth of economy, the nature are heavily polluted. Nearly 14,000 Chinese factories, which is over 70% of the factory in China, violate pollution rules, which lead to pollution of air, water, and land, which affect human well-being and distinction of species. At the end of the day, China is definitely a winner of globalization in economic aspect, but somehow a loser in social and environment aspects. So Australian firms should consider these factors they want to expand into China.
First, I'm going to talk about human development. Human development is measured by Human Development Index. The short form is HDI. So HDI is a statistical tool used to measure a country's overall achievement in its social and economic dimension. HDI is based on three measures. The first one is life expectancy at birth. The second one is educational attainment. And the third one is GNI per capita. GNI per capita is to whether average incomes are sufficient to meet the basic needs of HDI in China from year 1990 to 2017. So China HDI ranked 86 out of 189 countries with HDI value of 0.752. So if you compare to Australia HDI ranked as third out of 189 countries with HDI value of 0.939, so which is really high. So this is because Australia got a higher value in the three measures: higher in expectancy at birth, higher in educational attainment, higher in GNI per capita. So go back to China. Between 1990 to 2017, China HDI value increased from 0.502 to 0.752. So there's an increase of 49.7%. China life expectancy at birth increased by 7.1 years, so from 69.3 to 76.4 years. Mean years of schooling increased by 3 years, so from 4.8 to 7.8 years. GNI per capita increased by about 898.7%, so from $1,529 to $15,217. Now I'm going to talk about economic development. So economic development is a process by which the economic well-being and the quality of life of a nation, region, or local community are improved. So the factors that affect economic development includes innovation and entrepreneurship, infrastructure, and education. One of the factors of economic development is innovation and entrepreneurship. Strong enforcement of property rights encourage innovation and entrepreneurship, which will increase the rate of economic development and also give incentive to firms to conduct R&D, which aim to produce a new products and technologies. So China is one of the totalitarian regimes that achieve strong property rights protection. So as shown in the diagram from ChinaDaily.com, the authorized patents increased from 22,458 in 1990 to 1.84 million in 2017. So according to Clausitz and Levin cited in Lin, property rights are important because they influence one's incentive to invest in tangible or intangible capital or adopt more advanced technology. So recent studies shows that strong property rights protection enhance corporate governance, firm valuation, investments in financial assets, asset location, and thereby economic growth. Infrastructure is another factor of economic development. Infrastructure investment has been contributed to a rapid growth and significant improvement in people's life in China. China's major infrastructure investment includes electricity, roadway, railway, telecommunication, and others. In 2019, the infrastructure investment reached 15 to 20% of GDP as compared with 6.5% of GDP in 1993. As shown in the diagram from ChinaDaily.com.cn, the high-speed rail mileage has development from nothing to a high-speed railway network covered 25 km in 2007. Education is another factor of economic development. The government invested $10 billion to launch two significant initiatives in improving China's education. The two initiatives are Project 211 and Project 985. The purpose of Project 211 is to strengthen higher education institutions and key disciplines in 1995, and the purpose of Project 985 is to aim of building world-class university in 1998. So people from age 18 to 22 in higher education has increased significantly from 4% in 1990 to 37.5% in 2014. As of 2016, the number of graduates to flood in Chinese labor market each year is 7 million. In conclusion, there is still a great opportunity for Australian firms to enter the Chinese market because China's infrastructure has been highly developed over the decades and rich in highly educated laborers. However, the only thing as a foreign firm should consider is that the strong enforcement of property rights that might restrict them to establish in China.
I'll now discuss the cultural distance between Australia and China. According to Oskowski, he provides us with a framework for analyzing social structure. In his work, he identifies three basic schemata. The dichotomic schema: society is dominated by two classes that exist interdependent, the ruler and the ruled, the rich and the poor, and so forth. We come to relational schema. So society consists of many strata. This one is based on either one criterion, such as wealth, or several criteria, such as educational level, social status, or lifestyle. The last one is functional schema. The functional conception divides society into classes based on the contribution that each individual makes to the society. About China, in this case, in the modern society, the leading party use the functional schema. Is the had done so because they want to involve the intellectuals in developing the economy. In the case of Australia, surprisingly, contemporary Australia society does not have class, and people do not pay much attention to social classes. We move on to religion. Australia, according to Spencer Research, most of Australians are Christian. However, only 1/3 of them does attend the church regularly. So this raises the questions that whether the majority still have any real belief. In the case of China, most Chinese follow Buddhism and Confucianism. The Hofstede cultural dimensions, I can see here. This is a graph which the purple columns indicate China and the blue one show Australia. We have different dimensions, including power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. We will come to the analysis. The power distance of China is high, for 80. This indicates that power inequalities among people are acceptable, and the subordinate and superior relationship tends to be polarized, and there's no defense against power abuse by superiors. While in contrast, Australia is low in power distance. The superiors are always accessible, and managers rely on individual employees and teams for their expertise. Communication is informal, direct, and participative. we come to individualism. China, which only scored 20, has low individualism. People act in the interest of the group and not necessarily of themselves. However, Australia scored really high of 90, which indicates that it's a highly individualistic culture. Indulgence. Australia continues to score highs in this scope. This is an indulgence country. People exhibit a willingness to realize their impulse and desire. They have tendencies to be optimistic. In the case of China, contrast to Australia, they only score 24, which is really low. This is a restrained society. People do not put much emphasis on leisure time and control their desire. We come to masculinity. All countries score really high, which indicates that societies will be driven by competition, achievement, and success. We have Stoltenberg research. So according to Stoltenberg, the communications in the view of Western business, so they tend to treat communications as an exchange of information, and communication will end when the deal is over. However, in Chinese business culture, it considers communication as an inseparable part of building and maintaining business relationship. The intensive occupation with relationship building is an almost consuming aspect of Chinese life. So, come to conclusions. After comparing many cultural aspects of China and Australia, it seems that cultures of both countries is disparate.
After discussing the cultural distance between China and Australia, we now move to question 4. We identify and explain which industry should China and Australia specialize in when looking to trade with other countries. David Ricardo's comparative advantage. Ricardo argued that a country should export the goods which require relatively intensively abundant factor, and import the products which require relatively intensively scarce factor in the international trade market. China's comparative advantage. The world always considers labor, capital, and natural resource as the most basic factor of production. In terms of China, China is rich in labor resource because China is a highly populated country. Therefore, it has a huge comparative advantage in producing labor-intensive manufactured goods. Apart from that, David Ricardo also argued that the larger the relative productivity difference of productive factor, for example labor, the larger gains from trade. For example, a unit of China's labor is more efficient and cheaper compared to the expensive labor from Australia. So here, the labor difference is quite big. So therefore, China can gain a lot from trade. Since the comparative advantage is really important, here we use a revealed comparative advantage index to measure the comparative advantage. Here is the equation. So what does the RCA index mean? When the RCA index is greater than 1, it means that the country has an advantage in this product, and vice versa. This table here shows the RCA index of China's industry. For example, here, the silk has a really high RCA index, which is 80.21. It is much greater than 1, so it means that the silk from China is really competitive among world market. So according to RCA index, China should focus on the industry of natural resource intensive industry like metallurgical, pottery industry, and the labor intensive industry like clothing, footwear, processing industry. So this table here shows the RCA index of Australian industry. According to the table above, Australia should specialize in the natural resource intensive industry, for example, oils, mineral fuels, and animal husbandry products, agricultural products, and metal products.
Let's make a summary.
For question 1, China is definitely a winner of globalization in economic aspects, but somehow a loser in social and environmental aspects. Australian firms need to consider this factor before entering the Chinese market. For question 2, we conclude that there are still great opportunities for Australian firms to enter Chinese market because China's infrastructure has been highly developed over the decades and rich in highly educated level. However, it seems that the strong enforcement of property rights is a problem that might restrict them to establish in China. For question 3, we conclude that after comparing many cultural aspects of China and Australia, it seems like the culture of both countries is disparate. For question 4, China should focus on the industry of metallurgical, crude animal material and pottery industry, and labor-intensive industry like clothing, footwear processing, and while Australia should specialize in the industry of horse, mineral fields products, animal husbandry products, agricultural products, and metal products. That's all. Thank you.